Hey, I'm Kyle Petty, and you're listening to Jackaroot's Wind Tunnel.
You're entering the wind tunnel. No spin, no bull, all Jack. Wind Tunnel is brought to you by
Advance Auto Parts, the official auto parts retailer of NASCAR.
Here is your host, Jackaroot.
Welcome to this week's episode of Wind Tunnel. It is really good to have you here. You know, your support of this series has earned Wind Tunnel a spot in the top 10% of the entire podcast universe. And thanks to your efforts to add your friends to the growing number of subscribers, we continue to grow week after week. This week, I'm really excited about my guests. You see, in the Advance Auto Parts Victory Lap segment, you'll hear from a driver who has made his passion for short track racing at the Berlin Raceway a family affair. His dad is his crew chief and his mom his spotter. And for Nate Walton, 2021 is shaping up as another opportunity to snare Berlin's track title. I first met Tony Stewart when he was a 20-year-old Indiana driver that was showcased weekly on ESPN's award-winning racing coverage called Thursday Night Thunder. He went from winning there to capturing USAC's Triple Crown to winning an IndyCar Series title and 3 NASCAR Cup championships, and he was recently inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. And that's just a couple of lines of his racing resume. His visit to Wind Tunnel resulted in a far-reaching conversation that covered a multitude of topics. And Tony's visit reminded me of a night when he stopped by my family's Stafford Speedway, which will be the focus of this week's story time. But before all of that unfolds, I need to catch you up with this past weekend's racing action, because for the second week, the top disciplines found themselves sidelined by the Tokyo Olympics coverage. But that didn't mean there wasn't some compelling action. Here's Lenny Baticki of the Performance Racing Network.
Thanks a lot, Jack. This is your NASCAR Advance Auto Parts Weekly Series Racing Report. We'll start out with John Clam's win at Alaska Raceway Park, Beach Ridge Motor Speedway, the big trophy to Wyatt Alexander. It was Advance Auto Parts Advance My Track contest win day at Berlin Raceway. The checkers went to Tom Thomas on track. Larry O'Donnell wins at Bethel, New York, while at Claremont it was Todd Patnode, Vinnie Delaney victorious at Riverhead. Bowman Gray Stadium in North Carolina, John Holloman and Chris Fleming split the modified victories. Josh Berry won at Hickory, and Wake County went to Clay Jones. Dylan Kromschoter victorious in Wisconsin at Cedar Lake. La Crosse Fairgrounds to Steve Carlson, and at Madison it was Casey Johnson. Joey Less, the best at Colorado National. Coos Bay in Oregon to Brody Montgomery. Mike Beamish, a winner at Elko in Minnesota. Grandview was grooving for Kevin Graver. Mark Lading won at Nebraska's I-80. Kingsport Speedway in Tennessee to Dylan Hodge. Lakeside in Kansas to Tad Papasil, while Chad Wheeler won at Salina Highbanks. Langley Speedway in Virginia to Justin Carroll. Ryan Wilson and Chris Van Dyke split the wins at Motor Mile. Hudson in New Hampshire to George Helliwell. Brian Kruzik and Charlie Colby both got wins at Lee USA. Lima Land in Ohio to Harley White. Brad May wins at New Smyrna. Seacock in Massachusetts to Nick Chaber Jr. Brad Yackey won at Tucson, Arizona. And in Canada, Wayne Walsh and Sarah Throne were victorious at Eastbound. Grand Bend to Gord Bennett. And Rafael Lassard took the win at Sunset Speedway. This weekend, keep your eye on the C-Post, the number 12 for Ryan Blaney. He'll be sporting the Advance Auto Parts Weekly Series racing track, Autodrome Chartier Valley Junction. That's your NASCAR Advance Auto Parts Weekly Series Racing Report. Have an awesome week, Jack. See you next time.
2008 Hudsonville High School graduate Nate Walton has been racing since he was 9 years old when he started in go-karts. Now, 20 years later, he's leading the standings at Berlin Raceway in the Super Late Model Series.
For Nate Walton, short track racing is a family affair. His passion has resulted in feature victories and championships. You'll meet Nate Walton when he takes the Advance Auto Parts Victory Lap after this timeout.
With Advance Auto Parts, you can get the part you need from the comfort of your garage.
We have a wide variety of parts in stock, and you can get them fast. Order online with Advanced Same Day and get your part with same-day pickup in-store, same-day curbside, or same-day delivery. It's the fastest way to get the part you need, where you need it, when you need it. Advance your auto at Advance Auto Parts and participating CarQuest locations. See store for details.
I'm Kyle Rickey from MRN Radio, the voice of NASCAR. They are the foundation of American motorsports, the launching pad for racing's future. Time now for the Advanced Auto Parts Victory Lap, brought to you by the NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Series, driving local racing and local communities forward.
Taking a victory lap this week is a 31-year-old Michigan driver who truly makes his racing a family affair. He's Nate Walton, and he races every week at the 7/16 mile Berlin Raceway in Berlin, Michigan. Hey, Nate, welcome to the Wind Tunnel. Man, I got to tell you, it looks like you have your eyes set on yet another track title there at Berlin to go with the one you won back in 2019.
Yeah, this season hasn't been our greatest yet. We struggled a little bit at the beginning of the year. Right now, we're starting to get the car dialed back in, so everything's coming around so far.
You know, I want to circle back because, as I said, your operation is a family affair. You've got your dad down in the pits. Your mom is a spotter. How did all this come about?
Started go-karts when we were 9. From there, just kind of moved up to some dirt cars. And then from there, Berlin's been in our backyard and growing up. We've always been there watching. So we wanted to move up to the Berlin world and ended up buying a super stock from Russ Eping. Ran it for years. So
how tough has it been to acquire the skill set and to hone a racecraft that has earned you an Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Racing Series track title in the past?
It's tough, really tough. Run the super lates now. You're racing against Brian Campbell's and Tom Thomas and all big name, really good guys that have been there for years and years and have a lot of experience. So the Van Dorn brothers have been helping us out a lot, helping us give us some good info on what to do and stuff like that.
You say you're still learning.
Yes.
You aren't afraid to turn to others, your peers, to get some advice. From your standpoint, what is the biggest thing that you think you, Nate Walton, need to do to become a better race car driver?
A lot yet.
Well, you only get to pick one. What is the most overriding factor that you really think will increase your racecraft and continue your journey upward?
That's a tough one. I mean, there's a lot of things that that's a tough one.
I grew up in the short tracks of America. And one of the things that I've always maintained is you can sit in front of the TV and you can watch all the superstars of NASCAR, or you can go, in your case, out, let's say, to Michigan and watch the Keselowskis of the world. But there is something unique about the men and the women that tow a race car to a local racetrack every single weekend. And then during the week, spend hours away from their family just getting ready for the next one. They call it a racing passion. What kind of racing passion does the Walton family have?
Just a lot of it is being there, being a whole family together, working together on the car. My dad and I are out there working nights on it and everything. He's working later than I am some nights, and mom's talking in my ear every night in the race.
Yeah, I want to go back to that because you may be the only driver, or at least the first one that I have ever encountered, that has mom in his headset during the course of the race. So what the hell is that like?
It's fun.
Yeah.
We every once in a while she'll say like outside, and I can see in my left mirror that they're actually inside me, stuff like that. But so
don't correct your mother. You know what that'll get you.
Exactly. I just let it go and just kind of keep going.
How many times in the headset your mom has said to you, "Now, Nate, I'm telling you because I'm your mother"?
I haven't heard any of those, so.
I guess I shouldn't have spilled the beans then, huh?
They're there, really.
What do you still have on your bucket list in this weekly grind of running each and every weekend at Berlin?
Try to get more wins. We've only had one win in the super late class. Other than that, just try to get more wins out of it. We've had quite a few second places, just can't quite find that win,
Well, that goes back to the question I was asking you there, as far as you oftentimes can drive yourself crazy searching for that little missing link that'll take you from second to first place, but still at least a half a season left to go there. When I've been to Berlin, and it's a tricky little racetrack.
It is.
It's just a tad smaller than a half mile, and yet, at least when I was there, it struck me that it races like a quarter miler. What say you?
Yeah, I haven't ran any quarter mile tracks at all, so I don't really know what they run, but yeah, I can see that.
A lot of coarse quarters, huh?
Yeah, it is.
Do you have to use the chrome horn a lot?
I try not to.
That's not what I asked. We all have the best intentions, but every now and again,
I mean, normally you have your normal, get inside somebody, kind of cars are bumping and banging and stuff like that. But
if Tinkerbell could show up and grant you one wish, what would it be in terms of racing?
Growing up, I always had the dream of, being up there, the NASCAR, running with the Cup cars and all that. But, getting there up there in age and everything, and financially the money isn't there for us for that. So where we're at now, we're happy, we're having fun. If something comes along, an opportunity that we could, have a chance to drive something, bigger, faster, better, whatever you want to say, we'll definitely look into it.
You're a very humble guy, Nate. You're soft-spoken, and I'm trying to imagine, because this is the first time that you and I have actually met. I'm trying to imagine when you put on the Hans device, the full face helmet, cinch up those seat belts, and have mommy in your headset, how you can be aggressive. Are you an aggressive driver, or are you as laid back in the cockpit as you seem to be in our conversation here?
Yeah, we're pretty laid back. More the last couple of years, I've been kind of trying to get more aggressive, trying to, get that win, more wins and everything. Mm-hmm. But we're mostly laid back.
I appreciate you visiting with us today. I think this is a great story. You're just one of many thousands across the country that embark on weekly racing as a place for a family to be together. And those wins will come, my friend.
We're working on them.
Let's get the wins, and let's grab another one of those Advanced Auto Parts weekly racing series track titles for you, okay?
We'll do that. We will.
Be sure to join us again next week for another trip to racing's grassroots with the NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Victory Lap. Brought to you by the NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Series, advancing the next generation of drivers and champions. I'm Kyle Rickey from the Motor Racing Network.
We're hitting the brakes, but we'll be back on track after this. Coming up next.
2002, he was the champion. 2005, he was the champion, those driving for someone else. This time, he's an owner driver, and he's going to become a three-time NASCAR Sprint Cup champion. Tony Stewart wins it. Tony Stewart passed 76 cars in this race tonight.
It's just the most incredible run I've ever seen out of a race car driver, what Tony Stewart has done in this chase and tonight.
Yeah, I think it's the best driving I've ever seen, and Carl Edwards did an incredible job too, but this is the man right here, Tony Stewart.
Stay right where you are, because Tony Stewart joins me next here on Wind Tunnel.
With Advance Auto Parts, you can get the part you need from the comfort of your garage. We have a wide variety of parts in stock, and you can get them fast. Order online with Advance Same Day and get your part with same-day pickup in-store, same-day curbside, or same-day delivery. It's the fastest way to get the part you need, where you need it, when you need it. Advance your auto at Advance Auto Parts and participating CarQuest locations. See store for details.
Much the way his self-professed hero, A.J. Foyt, defined his generation of racers, winning in NASCAR, sports cars, and IndyCars, Tony Stewart has done so as well and keeps doing it, running more than 100 sprint car races annually, and just recently took home another championship, capturing the inaugural SRX Series title. And if that's not enough, he's also the owner of Eldora Speedway and co-owner of NASCAR's Stewart-Haas Racing outfit. Tony Stewart, welcome to the Wind Tunnel. It may not be the kind of wind tunnel you're used to, but then again, it is freewheeling. It's unrestricted conversation, so maybe it is.
Well, I appreciate it. This is I can assure you this wind tunnel is a lot cheaper than the one we have to put these race cars in that they charge us by the hour. But yeah, I think we'll have a lot of fun today with you.
All right, let's talk a little bit about your most recent accomplishment. You won the last International Race of Champions championship all the way back in 2006.
Tony Stewart looking for his 4th IROC victory. If there's a form of racing Stewart can't master, we haven't seen it. IRL champion, Rolex 24 Hours, NASCAR Nextel Cup champion, and a winner again in Crown Royal IROC.
And now at Nashville a couple of weeks ago, you were crowned as the first ever SRX Superstar Racing Experience champion.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have breaking news. Tony Stewart has clinched the inaugural SRX Series Championship through his performances through the first heat race and part of this second. So congratulations, Smoke. He said you only get one chance to be the first at something, and he wanted to be the first SRX champion. He's done it tonight.
Where does it fit in your incredibly long list of accomplishments?
Well, as you know, I mean, any championship's important and very significant. They all have their challenges and aspects that make them special, but this was super special, not just because of it being the first SRX one, but truly because of the fact that in 05, I think was the last year that we ran the IROC series. And I remember being at Atlanta and talking to Jay Signori and talking to him and Barb before the race. And I told Jay, I mean, we all knew that unfortunately IROC wasn't going to return the next year. And so I told Jay that I said, if I win this championship today, I said, I want to buy this car exactly the way it is when we finish the race. And to this day, I have that car in my shop at home. Still has all the rubber marks on it. The only thing that came off of that race car was the onboard camera that the network took back. But other than that, it's exactly the same setup, the same motor. I mean, it literally has not been touched since then. So to be able to fast forward now from 2005 to 2021 and to be a partner with Ray Evernham and Sandy and George Pine to create something that has been so exciting and have the opportunity to win the championship. You know, we were finishing up. We went up on the stage to do the race presentations for that event, and then to do the championship stuff. And I looked at Ray. I said, Ray, I know this car only has 6 races on it, but I said, I really want to buy this car to put next to the IROC championship car. And he thought that was really cool. So, Ray's got a great history with IROC too. That's where he got his start. And, to be able to come from that and win the last IROC championship, the first SRX championship, and to be able to have those cars in my collection means a lot to me.
What was the biggest takeaway? This was a unique series that mixed legends with up and coming young stars. So from your perspective, what was the biggest accomplishment of the series?
I'll be honest, there were so many cool things that happened. I don't know. I honestly don't think there is just one thing. I mean, I think from the ownership side, you look at the TV ratings and the numbers that we had each week, and, being able to be second to the Cup Series. I mean, that means we beat Formula One, we beat IndyCar, we beat NHRA, we beat the Xfinity Series, the Truck Series. To do that with a brand new series and do that for 6 consecutive weeks is something I'm extremely proud of from the ownership side. To go to awesome racetracks, to go to your track at Stafford and kick off our season with a sellout crowd, to go to Eldora and Knoxville, 2 places that on the dirt side I'm very passionate about. To get an opportunity to finally go to Slinger Speedway and see how cool that racetrack was. To go back to IRP where I ran all those Saturday Night Thunders and Thursday Night Thunder races back in the day, and to finish at the Nashville Fairgrounds. I mean, we picked 6 awesome racetracks. Then you go to the drivers and go, get the opportunity to meet and race against Paul Tracy and Willie T. Ribbs, to race again with Helio, to race with Tony Kanaan, to get to race against Bill Elliott and Bobby Labonte and Michael Waltrip again. Huge, really cool stuff there. But the thing that probably caught me off guard the most with the drivers was getting the chance to finally meet and race against Ernie Francis Jr. and Haley Deegan, who I'd met but never had a chance to race with. To meet Luke Fenhouse and Doug Coby. I've raced with Bobby Santos before. To race against these guys, it was such a cool mix of drivers, of young and old and in between. to have guys and race against Greg Biffle again a couple times, Scott Speed. We had cool drivers to race against. And, I think it was a great mixture of talent, but we had fun race cars. I mean, to have Tony Uri Jr. and Ray Abraham design these cars and build race cars that none of us, I was so scared. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're not going to get enough track time on these cars for them to get the setups right. And to go to flat paved ovals, to go to banked paved ovals, to go to a flat dirt track and a banked dirt track and have these cars be fun everywhere we went, absolutely blew my mind how much fun we had driving the cars. And so everything about it, to have heroes, to have villains in the series, to have controversy with drivers and scuff ups with drivers, it had all the aspects that you need to have a successful 2-hour show every Saturday night for 6 consecutive weeks. So it's hard to sit there and pick one thing. Everything about it was amazing. And there were so many things that happened off camera and when the show wasn't going on, with practice and being in the trailers around all the guys. We had RV trailers that we all got to hang out in during the day, and to have conversations with Paul Tracy and to get to know Willie T. Ribbs, but to get to know Luke Fenhouse and Doug Coby, and to get to spend time with those guys as they're coming up through their career, and Haley Deegan. And Ernie, who I'd never met, didn't even know anything about Ernie Francis till we invited him to SRX. But man, Leah and I are huge fans of him now. And now when he goes in races, we're trying to find the results to see how he did.
Yeah.
It just made for such a fun 6-week stretch where you had such great personalities and drivers that you got to race with, but getting the opportunity to spend time outside of the cars with those guys and get to know them better. I mean, if you can't have fun with Helio Castroneves and Tony Kanaan, you need to go see a doctor, because your life sucks, basically. So to have guys like that you got to hang around each week, and at the end of the day, you got to race with them, but at the same time to really, in some of those cases, we got to catch back up, hadn't seen each other for a while. Some of them I'd never met before and had been in motorsports and are toward the end of their careers. And some of them are newcomers that are just getting started in their careers. That was the fun part. Probably the most fun that I had in the series was getting to spend the time with the drivers.
So while you were out having fun and adding to your trophy case, your NASCAR Cup team was taking delivery on this so-called Gen 7 race car that you and the rest of your NASCAR Cup Series peers are going to be wheeling next season. Tell me a little bit about what you think lies ahead in that regard.
I've had people ask what they thought was going to be the most challenging part of it. And the answer that I have is it's a shorter list of what's not going to be challenging about it. I think everything about that car is going to be a challenge, but I think that's going to be part of the fun of it too. I mean, when you think back to what we've had for the basic package of a NASCAR Cup car, an Xfinity car, and truck for the last 30 years or 40 years, you take a Cup car and you turn it upside down and you look at the rear suspension. It is 2 I-beams that are what they designed for trucks. That's why they call it truck arm suspension. That's what we're running in Cup cars that at Michigan, when I was running in 2015 and 16, we were going into turn 1 at Michigan at 221 miles an hour in a Cup car with truck arm I-beam suspension in the rear. And to think about all the cool engineers that we had and smart people in motorsports that figured out how to take that package and figure out how to make it go that fast was remarkable. Now we get to take that same group of guys with a brand new car, with independent rear suspension, gearboxes that we have the ability to tweak on. There's new aspects that we've never had the ability to work on before that the engineering departments are going to have a field day with this. But it's a challenge right now, especially when, we're just now taking delivery of these cars and get our hands on them finally. But we're in the middle of a season that we're still trying to win races, still trying to lock drivers in. And we have a lot of focus on still getting 3 more cars locked into that. But at the same time, we're going to have to take a group of people that are in-house and shift them toward that new car, because I can promise you every organization isn't going to wait till the last race of the season and then go, oh, by the way, now we have to go work on these things. So we're going to have to all get humping on these things and try to figure out the nuances of them and what are the things that we're going to be able to try to find advantages on and do the same thing that's been in motorsports for eternity, trying to figure out how do you take what you have and how to make it better and get the most out of it.
There's more coming up with Tony Stewart. I'll talk to him about the current health of motorsports in America and his perspective on young kids wheeling full-size race cars before they even earn their driver's license. That's next, right after this timeout.
With Advance Auto Parts, you can get the part you need from the comfort of your garage. We have a wide variety of parts in stock, and you can get them fast. Order online with Advance Same Day and get your part with same-day pickup in-store, same-day curbside, or same-day delivery. It's the fastest way to get the part you need, where you need it, when you need it. Advance your auto at Advance Auto Parts and participating CarQuest locations. See store for details.
Our conversation with Tony will continue in a moment, but first, this week's story time is about a night where Tony Stewart got his very first taste of driving a modified, and in the process, created a team mutiny, not necessarily of his direct making.
And now...
Hey, Rocky! Watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat!
Again?
Nothing up my sleeve! Presto!
Wrong hat!
I take a 7.5.
Now here's something we hope you'll really like.
With apologies to Rocky and Bullwinkle, it's time for Wind Tunnel Stories. Not fractured, and certainly not fairy tales. Instead, they're stories collected during my 50 years in racing. While Tony Stewart was still racing in IndyCar, I chartered a helicopter to take him, along with Ari Lyondike, Robbie Buell, and the late Bobby Unser, to make a visit to my family's track, the Stafford Motor Speedway. Their visit was unannounced, and it was really, quite honestly, just to be a guy's night out, but that changed just a bit as we were landing at the track. Stewart saw Stafford's SK Modified division running their final practice before the qualifying heats began, and he said to me, "Hey, can you get me a ride in one of them?" Well, believe me, it wasn't that hard to grant Tony's request. Arrangements were hastily made with the team, fire suit and helmet secured, and Stewart was strapped in for his qualifying heat number 3. Now, because he was making his very first SK Modified start, and even though he was an IndyCar winner and IndyCar champion, Smoke was relegated to last on the starting grid. I should point out that the car he was in had never run up front. It was a small operation that considered simply making the feature a pretty successful night. Now, that's not meant as a knock. Instead, I share it only for context as to what happened next. The heat distance was 8 laps, so there was no time to feel things out. And let's face it, we have come to know that feeling things out is not the way Tony Stewart races. With the crowd cheering wildly, Tony carved his way from the back to the front and won that qualifying heat. Once back in the paddock, Stewart huddled with the crew, made some chassis adjustment suggestions, and the crew, believe me, was all ears and started twisting on the race car. Then Tony asked the driver if he could drive the car in the feature. The crew, well, they lit up. I really thought that they were all on board. But like a lot of teams at the short track racing level, this one was owned by the driver and his crew, all volunteers, were not the final decision makers. The driver, well, he shall remain nameless just to protect the innocent, but he mulled it over for a minute or so, and Stewart could see that he was torn. So Tony added, "Hey, listen, if you let me drive your car tonight, I'll pay you the prize money that you'd earn for winning the feature. Add that to the purse money, and it'll be a pretty good night for you." What ensued, however, was a painful silence that was only broken when the driver thanked Tony for the offer and said, "Hey, I think I'm going to drive the car in the feature. It's really running good tonight." So Tony thanked the entire team for giving him the opportunity, and he and I rejoined our friends in the grandstands and went about our business. Well, when the green flag dropped for the feature event, it didn't take long for the caution to come out, and yep, you guessed it, the yellow was for a crash involving the driver who had just rebuffed Tony Stewart. When the following Friday rolled around, I noticed that team was not at the track. And that's when I found out that when the damaged car got back to the paddock, the crew were beside themselves. And that rift between them and the driver only grew during the week. So with some bad feelings still hanging in the air, the team decided to take a few weeks off. Now, eventually, the team repaired their relationship and kept racing at the track. They never won a race, though, and I'm sure always wondered, in fact, still wonder to this day, what might have been if reality had not been overshadowed by illusion and optimism.
Only now you know the rest of the story.
Tony, I can't think of anybody that has as broad-based a view of American motorsports other than you. Roger Slack and you with Eldora Speedway, continuing that incredible Earl Baltus legacy there, your All-Star Circuit of Champions, your Cup entry, your sprint car racing, and your short track appearances. What does Tony Stewart think the current state of affairs in motorsports across America is?
I would say probably the best example I can think of was I called my friend at Featherlight Trailers the other day, and we were just talking in general. I said, how are you guys doing? He goes, well, we're 14 to 16 months behind right now on builds. Featherlight probably builds arguably the best trailer in motorsports. And for them to be 14 to 16 months behind I've never heard of that. To think about all the teams, and especially during COVID, you're sitting there thinking, how are tracks going to survive? How are race fans going to survive? How are race teams going to survive? It was a huge challenge from the professional motorsports side with NASCAR and IndyCar and NHRA, because you have so many corporate sponsors and Fortune 500 companies involved, and how they were having to cut back to make things work corporate wise. But then you think about all the short track industry, and to see the amount of cars that ran last year, and when tracks started opening up and when fans were allowed to start coming in, to see the fans come out in groves just was amazing to see how many people. And this year, now that restrictions in a lot of states are 100% gone, to see car counts, to see sellout crowds. I mean, we went to tracks. I think the crowd at IRP, I think they said they hadn't seen a crowd like that since the late 70s. To go to the Nashville Fairgrounds and have it sold out, they haven't seen that for years. I mean, I think the motorsports industry as a whole, I think there's some sectors of it that are still struggling a little bit. And I think a lot of that's in the manufacturing side. But as far as competition and teams being involved and fans going to the racetrack, I feel like it's as healthy as it's ever been right now. And that example of, back order on trailers, I think that's a good example. I think there's a lot of companies. I know there's some of the chassis builders that we deal with that are 40 to 60 cars behind on getting cars built and sent out to people that have ordered brand new race cars. So I feel like the motorsports industry as a whole right now is really, really healthy right now. Why? I don't know. I can't answer the question of why it is, but what I see from the outside looking in and what I see at the racetrack is that the motorsports industry as a whole is very, very healthy right now.
The other side of the coin is it was not that long ago where maybe at 18, 19, in fact, I remember hooking up with you on Thursday Night Thunder when you were still just a kid at that age. Now we got kids 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years of age that are wheeling race cars on America's short tracks, and some of them making it through ARCA and other things. At 16, they're veterans. What's up with this youth movement?
It's literally crazy. I mean, and probably the part that scares me and is most disturbing to me, and I'll get to the positives of it too, but something that really is something that I feel like is going very much the wrong direction in short track industry is promoters and tracks that are letting 10, 12, 13, 14-year-olds drive full-size race cars in the adult classes, which if you're in a full-size race car, you should be an adult. You should be at least 16 years old. If city governments and state laws don't let you drive a car on city streets at 35 to 55, 60 miles an hour, you shouldn't be driving a full-size race car at the age of 12, 14 years old right now. Doesn't mean that you're not capable of it, but there's a lot of aspects of it that don't make sense. There's these kids at 12, 14 years old, they can barely get to school and back without doing something stupid, let alone putting them in race cars. And they have zero They have zero regard for safety. They have zero regard for etiquette. Can they mash the gas? Absolutely. You think about when you and I were kids, for example, and we got on bicycles without training wheels the first time. We crashed, but you got back up and you got going. I've seen kids that have tried to ride bicycles and they fell down and got hurt for a split second and steam goes away in 10 seconds and they don't want to try riding the bike again the rest of the day. I guess what I'm saying is these young kids don't have a concept of what can happen and what the ramifications are, not only for their safety, but the guys that they're racing, the people they're racing against. And they damn sure don't think about what it costs and the time that it takes to build these cars, the money it takes to invest to build these race cars. And what happens is if you go out and you wreck against a guy out here that works a 9-to-5 job, he has 3 or 4 kids and he works on his race car till 11, 12 o'clock every night to get ready to go to the racetrack. There's just fundamental problems that don't make sense. It's like, I don't understand why parents, and I blame the parents for this. I don't understand why parents don't let their children be kids and grow up being kids and learn. You got parents that are dragging their kids all over the country and they're not in school. They're homeschooling their kids, which there's nothing wrong with that in my opinion. But these kids need to be around other kids and they need to learn how to be kids first. Yeah. They need to grow up a little bit before they get thrown in professional motorsports. Do they have talent? Absolutely. I see kids every day that I think have talent. But I also get bombarded by parents and get letters and get bombarded at tracks. And they're like, hey, you need to watch my kid tonight. He's in this car. And he's 14 years old and he's won 9 races this year. I always ask them something that absolutely stops them in their tracks. I'm like, well, have they got hurt and been in the hospital yet with a racing crash? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, you're telling me how good your kid is. I said, I don't know how good your kid is till he's been in the hospital after he got hurt in a race car. I want to see, just like the kid that fell off the bicycle, I want to see if he gets back up and gets right back in there and tries to jump the bicycle again. So I'm not interested in 10, 12, 14-year-old kids. I have no desire to look at them because they're not even mature yet. And you don't even know by the time they get to 16 or 18 if they still even want to do it. And if they're doing it for the right reasons. Are they doing it because that's what they're passionate about? Or are they doing it because their parents are passionate about it? So that's the negative side of it that I don't like. On the positive side of it, there are some unbelievably talented kids that have come through. But they're talented at 16, they're talented at 18, they'll be even more talented when they're in their 20s. But again, it's the fact of you just don't know what you truly have got until I feel like I've told some veterans, I've told guys like Jack Hewitt and Steve Kinzer about that, and they shake their head and they nod and they're like, yeah, you're right. You truly find out what you've got when these guys get banged up and they realize what happens if they make a mistake and they crash, what can actually happen to them. Then you find out how good somebody really is. I love the fact that there's so many youngsters in motorsports because that is obviously the future. But I hope they get a chance to grow up and be kids first and enjoy their racing before it becomes everything in their life.
Hey, it's been a real treat for me. I hope it's been pretty good for you. I've enjoyed our time to get caught up and just look forward to what lies ahead, not only in the chase in the NASCAR Cup Championship, but also down the road on all the crazy things that you still continue to do, Tony.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to marry a girl that drives a lot faster than me, and she's got me doing stuff I never thought I'd ever do. She's made me defy the laws of physics and got my fat ass on a wakeboard on the lake and wake surfing around, and has even got me making laps in a Top Fuel dragster every now and then when they get test sessions. So I'm having a lot of fun with her, but I love the opportunity. You and I have worked together for years in motorsports, and I cherish the opportunities we get to spend time like this together and talk about racing and all the fun times we used to have.
Thanks, Smoke.
All right, buddy. Thank you.
I'll wrap up this week after you take this time out.
With Advance Auto Parts, you can get the part you need from the comfort of your garage. We have a wide variety of parts in stock, and you can get them fast. Order online with Advance Same Day and get your part with same-day pickup in-store, same-day curbside, or same-day delivery. It's the fastest way to get the part you need, where you need it, when you need it. Advance your auto at Advance Auto Parts and participating CarQuest locations. See store for details.
Well, that yet again brings a close to the wind tunnel. My thanks to my guests, Nate Walton and Tony Stewart. I think you'll agree with me that you now know just a little bit more than you did before you listened to this week's show. Remember that the entire Wind Tunnel series can now be downloaded at your favorite download site. I appreciate your visiting. Look forward to seeing you again next week, right here on Jack Arut's Wind Tunnel.
Today's trip to the Wind Tunnel was brought to you by
Advance Auto Parts, the official auto parts retailer of NASCAR.